welcome to episode number 10 or 11 of the Viking Voices podcast, and we're going to get into that because this is actually pre-recorded. This will be up in the new year, so let me be the first to wish you a happy new year.
Thank
Dr.
you, Dr.
LaFave. It's December 17th when we're recording this, but thank you for being on this morning. It's finals week for the students here at on campus.
Well, thanks for having me. Happy New Year to you as well, and hope you had an awesome Christmas, even though we're not officially there yet. But, it's great to be with you today.
Yeah, it's awesome, and if there was ever an episode where there was pressure, this is the one because we got the president on today, and it's finals week. For the students, it's a busy time. It's maybe a time of stress. What does a finals week look like on your end?
Well, it's typical. The meetings never change. The cycle of the different things that have to be done in the course of a week doesn't really change much in my office, but there's certainly a lot more activity, starting with the finals breakfast the other night. What a tremendous event that was. Over 200 students showed up and participated in that. Faculty and staff helped serve, and just a great event. And then very different for me, for the students, when they get into finals week, they've got a different type of a schedule as well. They're used to going to class every, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday and Thursday at certain times.
Right.
But when it gets to finals preparation time, they're really focused on making sure they're prepared for that final exam. And it takes a lot of study, it takes a lot of focus and a lot of effort. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously the schedule changes a bit. Sometimes an 8 a.m. might be a 2 p.m. final. So some get the luck of the draw with the sleep in a little bit, and some get the old, I had the Monday 8 a.m. So, I drew the short straw.
Yeah.
Obviously I asked this to everybody. Everybody knows who you are. If they don't, get to know who this is. But would love to go through just, where you grew up, where you went to school. You have an extensive background, obviously doing some podcast prep. I learned that, and I knew from, previous events where you spoke at, and I just love for you to share some of that with the listeners.
Well, sure. I grew up in a small town in central South Dakota called Oneida, South Dakota. It's about 30 miles northeast of Pierre, and spent my entire childhood there, and my father and mother owned a TV and appliance business that they started there. Went for 42 years.
Wow.
And it was great growing up in that small community. I attended Sully Buttes High School, and after graduating from high school, went on to undergraduate at Northern State in Aberdeen, completed my undergraduate degree there, and then went right into the teaching field. My first job, in fact, was at Aberdeen Central as a band director, and just really enjoyed the experience there, and just the upbringing in central South Dakota was one that I just am very grateful for, having the opportunity to be involved in lots of different things as a high school student. Obviously music was one of them, but I also ran track and was on student council, involved with all sorts of different clubs and organizations, which is something that I've kind of carried through my entire life.
Yeah, I like that. And the small town especially gives a lot of opportunities. Try a bunch of different things, right? You talk about you kind of going over the board with student council. You go to band. I know you have a music background,
right?
Especially. I'm sure you're thrilled about the new CFA and all the events that are going on there. I see you. I'm always recording the events, and president's here again. President's here, second night in a row. So I know you're loving that. Let's talk a little bit more about university.
Sure.
Obviously, I went through kind of your bio, obviously, in preparation for this podcast.
Sure.
Talk about studying, what you studied, maybe dive into the specifics, and then, there's something I want to talk about, the American Bandmasters Association.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But let's get into the university first.
Yeah, well, I wanted to go back talking about the end of my high school career.
Okay, let's do that.
You being from Canada, my first trip into Canada was when we performed at the Red River X in Winnipeg.
Okay.
And then from there on, when I got into college, we actually performed at 3 different Blue Bombers games.
Wow.
At halftime. And so I really became a fan of the CFL and the fast style of play. And
I love that.
3 and out kind of thing.
Yes.
And all the motion but I also learned that it gets cooler sooner there than it does even here in North Dakota.
Yes.
And it was a real adjustment. We went up, I think it was in late October, and I thought, oh, it's October. It's going to be okay. But it was quite brisk. But anyway, that was my foray into getting to know your home country a little bit. And great place. But getting into my own university experience, undergrad, as I said, music education preparation. Then I taught high school for 3 years at Aberdeen Central. Had a great experience. Taught both band and choir, and realized, I think I want to do more. At one time, I had a goal of being a military band conductor. I was thinking of the President's Own or U.S. Air Force Band or one of the major service bands. That's something that I really had an interest in performing in, and perhaps someday moving into that role, because they were just so incredibly precise. And
Yes.
and I attended several of their concerts as a college student, and was just always just really impressed with the quality of their work and their discipline and the focus and the effort. So I thought there has to be more to this, and I started looking around for grad schools, and not knowing if I was going to remain as a high school director or go on and maybe try to become a university level director. I took a leave of absence from Aberdeen Central and went to Arizona State, and prepared there and to move on. And I remember when we made the decision to go there, Carrie, my wife, worked at a bank, Valley National Bank, and she really helped me get through grad school. And we approached it like a job. I want to approach school like this is a job, 8 hours a day minimum, but there were several days that were 10, 12, 14 hours, and just a lot of work and a lot of effort. And I learned so much, and I was inspired by some amazing musicians, amazing teachers, amazing artists that I had a chance to hear and work with, and just some really incredible performance opportunities with the Phoenix, or the Arizona Opera and Ballet Company, and the Phoenix Symphony, and just all the different Arizona State ensembles that I had a chance to be in.
Yeah. That's quite a story. It's quite an adjustment, obviously, probably to go from South Dakota region all the way down to Arizona State. What kind of led to that decision?
Well, I was looking at 3 different grad schools at that time: University of Iowa, University of Michigan, and Arizona State. They were 3 of the top programs that I was familiar with, and I had some contacts with former friends and alums from Northern and from other places, and faculty members. You rely on your faculty so much for advice and counsel. And some of the faculty that I had worked with actually went to Arizona State. And so I applied to all 3 places, and I remember when I toured Arizona State's campus, I think it was in January.
Okay.
And
that's a selling point right there.
And we got there, and I thought, okay, this is okay. Of course, we didn't tour in July,
Right.
But we lived there in July and had to go through 3 of those very brutally hot summers. But it was just an amazing place, and the facilities were just state of the art. The Gamage Auditorium was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright, famous architect, and just the music facility. At that time, Arizona State was considered one of the top 10 music programs in the country, and I believe they still are. And right now, it's one of the largest institutions in the country. And so it was a major culture shift going from Oneida, South Dakota, population 900,
Yep.
to Aberdeen, population 20,000. A campus of about 3,000, to a campus of, at that time, about 35, 40,000. The campus at ASU was bigger than the entire community that I had been living in. And so big difference, big adjustments. And I recall being there as a student thinking to myself how grateful I was that I did my undergraduate experience at a place where I got some really great instruction, some really good personalized attention. I wasn't in classes with 500 people, and now all of a sudden I'm at Arizona State, and I'm a graduate assistant for a class that has 500 people, and it was just really a different experience.
Yes. Yeah. 500 people is in one class is.
Yep.
You can't even picture that because we don't have you'd never think that even.
Right.
You wouldn't even get 100 here. And that's
Right.
certainly one of the benefits we talk about is, that one-on-one kind of instruction. You have 15, 20 students in one class. And, your professor knows you by your first name. But in a room of 500, that would get tough, especially to stand out. I hear a lot of stories from people that go to bigger universities. It's like they're just another number. So it's
Well, my advantage was I was there as a grad student. So the grad student population in a really big research level institution like Arizona State does get more personalized instruction and more personalized attention. And so I was part of a really smaller group of students that worked together very closely. But as an undergraduate, I just can't imagine what that's like, getting swallowed up by the massive size of it.
For sure.
And not getting to know your faculty.
100%. I wanted to bring up a name because, again, I'm not of any music background. I'm obviously pretty much sports through and through.
Sure.
You studied under Robert Spring at Arizona State University. Obviously, like myself, no idea who that is, but I feel like that would be someone worth talking about, especially for some people who may be, of a music background.
Absolutely. He's my mentor. He is someone who had such a major impact on my entire life. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Bob Spring. And Dr. Spring, I recall when I first started ASU, I should back up just a little bit. I was going there to become a band director and get my training in instrumental conducting. But I recall in the first week or two of being a student, I heard him perform. And at this point in time, he had just come from a university in Texas. He was new at Arizona State. He and I were both there together. My first year as a student was his first year as the clarinet professor. And I heard him play and was just astounded. And I thought to myself, that's what I want to be able to do. I want to be able to do that. And if you want to be able to do that, then you need to work with the person. You need to study with them. And so I went to his office the next day and asked if I could audition for the performance program. And he said, sure, come on in. And he actually is so formative in my background. He spoke at my inauguration here at Valley City State. He was one of the guest speakers, and he told the story about how the first time I went in and played for him. Now, you have to keep in mind, I'd been a band director for about 3 years, so I didn't have a lot of time to practice, and my abilities had slid back a little bit. And I won't use the exact words that he used, but I needed work. I needed improvement. And he wrote a list of about 10 things. He goes, well, I don't know. He said, I'm just not sure that the performance program's for you. Maybe you should think music ed. I said, no, I really want to work with you. I want to be a clarinet performance major. And he said, well, you need to do these things. And so, and a lot of it focused on tone production and technique and precision and just refinement of what I was doing. But so I hit the practice room hard. I said, can I come back in 2 weeks and play for you again? He goes, yeah, sure. You come back. And so I did those things and hit the practice rooms hard for about 2 weeks and went back in his office and played. And he got this little smile on his face while I was playing, and I could tell that he was kind of surprised. He said, wow, okay. He said, we'll give this a shot. And so he let me in the program, and the rest is history. I ended up becoming a graduate assistant for him and for the studio. And it just opened up so many doors from working with him individually to performing with him in major ensembles, just truly the most important mentor that a person could ever have. And I owe so much to him.
Well, I love that story. And I think everyone can relate to that story somehow because everyone has, you call them Bob Spring in their life.
Yep.
And certainly, something, especially as you're shaping up, your career or where you want to go, you obviously need that one person to kind of, or a lot of people have that one person that just kind of steers them in the right direction. So that's awesome.
I have to tell you a story. He had a Dodge Daytona T-top. And
you'll look that car up because I have no idea what that looks like.
And we were driving to downtown Phoenix. We were the two clarinet players. It was for a Phoenix Bach Society concert, or it might have been the Arizona Ballet Orchestra, one of those. And we were driving downtown, and we were both young, And he was new in his job, and I was new as a student. He turned to me and goes, Alan, someday we're going to change the world. and he really has. When
Yeah.
it comes to the clarinet world, no one has changed the clarinet world more than Bob Spring.
Wow. That's awesome. And quite a car, too. I just
Yeah.
took a picture of it. That's quite a car. That's really cool. And, obviously, like you said, it's something that's stuck with you all this time. So clearly a special moment. And I think the fact that he spoke at your inauguration is quite cool, too. And I think kind of leads me into my next sort of phase of, your life. And after grad school, what did it look like for you?
Well, it's interesting. We were back. My wife is from Sisseton, and we were back for Christmas. And I wasn't finished with my degree yet, and the phone rang, and it was one of my friends from Arizona State who had just gotten the band director job at Augustana in Sioux Falls, and they were going to have a 1-year opening the next year for a clarinet teacher. The person who was their clarinet instructor was going on sabbatical leave, and they needed someone to fill in. And they asked me to come down and do an interview. And, of course, I wasn't prepared for this, wasn't expecting it, hadn't applied. So we drove down the next day and spent the day with them. And by the time we left Sioux Falls that day, I had a job offer. Wow. And I didn't really know if it was the right time to accept it. So, I had a conversation with Dr. Spring and so what do you think? And he says, well, I've always said that if you would like to get a college job, it's a lot easier to get one if you have one. Mm-hmm. And you've got an offer on the table. I know it's only 1 year. You should probably accept it. So I did. And it was just a great experience. Wonderful community, excellent university, great students. And it was really nice to transition from being a student to being a teacher again.
Right.
And I found that I really enjoyed it, and I knew I had made the right choice. Mm-hmm. And so while I was there, the position at my alma mater at Northern opened up, and I was fortunate enough to get that job. I started there in 1991 and was there until I came here in 2018. And
you were at Northern, obviously, and then you come here, and immediately you're the president of the school. How is that kind of, what is that transition? Obviously, you're teaching music, was it clarinet the entire time, or did you move around a little bit?
I was the band director, taught clarinet, taught a lot of classes, conducting, school music program, methods and media, woodwind methods, all sorts of different things that would help people become teachers. But, when you go to get your doctorate in clarinet performance, you don't have in your mind that someday I want to be a university president. Mm-hmm. That wasn't even on my radar at all. And as I went through my career, I moved into some administrative roles. I was a department chair and then an assistant dean and then dean of grad studies and dean of fine arts and then provost, which is the vice president for academic affairs. And I started to enjoy seeing how that role could help impact the entire institution in a big way. And again, had no plans on ever leaving, but my daughter, oldest daughter, teaches in Kindred and coaches, and there was a volleyball tournament going on in Fargo. And while we were on our way to the tournament, I got a phone call from the people that were looking to hire the new president at Valley City State. And they said, hey, Al, you should take a look at this. It lines up really closely with your background and experience, and it's a great opportunity. And so we drove through Valley City on the way back. And I had been here several times in the previous 20 years.
Right.
I conducted the Barnes County Music Festival, the Ploihar Honor Band. So I had been on campus and was familiar with the community. But we drove by down here on College Street, and I remember looking up and seeing McFarland Hall and that clock tower. And in my mind, I just thought, this is what a university campus should look like. And if the people are half as impressive as the campus, this is going to be a really good opportunity. So I threw my hat in the ring and was fortunate to get the position.
Right on. Yeah, I remember my first drive onto the campus too. It's something that the first drive, there's nothing that compares to it because you just see everything for the first time, and especially in the fall, everything's so green. It's late summer, I suppose. You get here August, right? And it's a beautiful campus. 2018 you're inaugurated. I believe I have that year right.
Yep.
And so, like I said, pressure's alleviated there. So you're inaugurated. Let's kind of get into now. Well, now you're 7 years here as the president. Is that?
I've just finished 6. I
6 years,
started in
okay.
December of 2018, so the inauguration didn't really happen until the next fall.
Okay.
But I started in mid-December of 2018.
Right on. So you've been here.
Yep.
So this will be just finished 6.
Just finished 6, yeah.
And so I guess let's talk about some of this stuff. So you're the president here. What does a day-to-day look like for you?
Yeah, I've been asked that question before, and there is no consistency
Yes.
to my days. And in fact, when I get up every morning, in fact, the night before every day, I look at my schedule and I make mental notes and sometimes written notes to make sure I can know what's coming next. But I look at the calendar, so I get an idea about what meetings I have or what events are coming up or what time this particular concert is or this game or this event. But quite often, you come to work and things change.
Mm-hmm.
Things pop up. You'll get an unexpected phone call, or as Mark Potts found out last week, you'll have a sprinkler system that freezes up, and all of a sudden you have to handle that.
Yes.
Everything emerges and changes. But in general, my days are very busy.
Mm-hmm.
But what I enjoy about it is each day is different.
Mm-hmm.
We're working for the same purpose, collective purpose as an institution. We have a great cabinet in place, really outstanding leadership, and all of the successes we've had as an institution are owed to a team of really good people that work hard for this place. And so some days start really early. Some days I'll have a 6:45 a.m. meeting up on the hill, and we'll go until 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night with events. But other days aren't quite as busy.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a nice balance, and I enjoy the variety to my days.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I'm kind of the same way as I just like almost a blank canvas to start the day. And then
Yep.
sometimes you don't know exactly where it's going to take you. And then, sometimes some random kid asks you to do a podcast interview and then that's on your schedule.
Yeah,
So,
right.
you kind of touched on, I was going to ask you what some of your favorite parts of the job are, but you kind of touched on that already. And then, we're kind of working down the list actually really well. So you're covering a lot of my questions when I ask one.
But you know what my favorite part of the job is? It's just the interactions with the people,
Mm-hmm.
the students. We have amazing students
We
at
do.
Valley City State, absolutely amazing. And they're so genuine, they're authentic, they're here to improve their lives and garner everything they can from their faculty, their mentors, their coaches, their teachers, and not just the students, but the faculty and staff I get to work with every day. There's just an unbelievable positive atmosphere on this campus.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I've got to know a lot of faculty throughout my time here, and that's not something I necessarily thought coming into university. You're not going to know your professors, you're not going to know, but I've, developed, I wouldn't say friendships necessarily, but good working relationships with different faculty and obviously students. Everyone knows everyone kind of thing, and there's all that support all around campus, kind of from everyone. So yeah, I completely agree with you. What are some of the events on campus that you look forward to annually?
Oh, that's a great question.
You can have more than one. You can.
Oh, yeah, there are several.
Yes.
Homecoming week is always a great week.
course.
Summer Vikes on Central has become something in the last number of years that I always look forward to. Events where we bring the foundation board on campus because they're such strong supporters and they want to see VCSU be successful. Concerts. I was glad they brought back the St. Kate's choir program this year. Beautiful space and wonderful acoustics, and it's just something special about a Christmas concert at St. Kate's. Oh gosh, and probably we have one that will have already happened by the time this podcast goes, but that's our commencements, both the winter and the spring commencements, when you have a chance to recognize the students and for all the hard work they've done and see them there with their friends and their families and celebrating that success together. Commencement's a real big day on our campuses.
Yeah, 100%, and that's my spring. Yeah, that's gonna be happening this spring. So,
Yep.
Yeah, it's you obviously are probably proud to send off those students. Obviously, people that you don't want to keep here forever, obviously,
Right.
because they
Some
need
you'd like to, though, you know.
exactly. Yeah, no, yeah, that's those are all excellent events, and those are events that I look forward to too. Obviously, commencement for the first time this spring, I'll have that to look forward to. Um, let's talk about the capital campaign because
Sure.
I know this was something we wanted to touch on for sure. Um, I kind of had this group to get coupled with another question. Some of the campus projects that you're very excited for, and some that you're starting to already see, develop on campus.
Sure. Well, when I interviewed, one of the topics that they brought up in the course of that process was the need to do a capital campaign. Valley City State had never done a capital campaign in the past, and in order to get some things accomplished, you just need to have some funds in order to do that. And so we entered into I would say for the size of our institution, an aggressive campaign with a goal of 25 million, and we've met that with the help of lots of different folks, both private and public, and we prioritized as we went into the campaign what are some needs that we have for the campus. And we knew that facility-wise that McCarthy Hall was going to be a big need. We had already accomplished the construction of the Center for the Arts, which was needed because the old building, Foss Hall, was on the wrong side of the flood wall.
Yes.
And it was just a matter of time before something catastrophic could happen.
It was that spring
Yeah.
that they had to put the walls up. So yeah.
Absolutely. And so we're very fortunate that the legislature appropriated the funds for the construction of that particular facility. It's, I believe, the finest fine arts facility in all of North Dakota and probably most of the Midwest. It's just a tremendous space. And we've already seen growth. We've seen growth in those programs, but we've seen growth in the use of the facility by the community, by the entire campus, whether it's a guest speaker or a special event or a state board meeting, whatever it happens to be. It's provided a really nice space for us to do some exciting things. And so as we start thinking about the priorities on campus, we knew that McFarland Hall needed some attention. And as we were requesting the funds for...
Is it McFarland or McCarthy?
I'm sorry, McCarthy.
Okay.
I'll get to McFarland in a little bit. That's on the list too. But when we were building the Center for the Arts and requesting the funds for that, the original intent was actually to tear down McCarthy Hall. And as we started to think about the mission and the vision and the values of the campus, and in conversations with the governor's office and legislators, it was determined that that hall has a lot of redeeming value. It may not work for a music facility, but it certainly would work as a classroom facility. Mm-hmm. And since it was originally in the education area, it was the old model school for Valley City. We decided, let's just make that the home for our new school of education and technology education. And the capital campaign helped propel that, helped jumpstart that, because we received $11.5 million from the state for that building with a $2 million match from the campus. And so a large part of that $2 million match came from private gifts that went to the capital campaign.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's underway, and we should be in that facility by late summer of 2025.
Wow.
So the students that are entering Valley City State for next fall will be taking classes in that facility. And it's not just education classes, even though that's going to be the home for education. There's some large classroom spaces that will be able to be utilized by the entire campus community. And then the other part of the capital campaign, we recognized a need to enhance and upgrade our athletic facilities. And through a whole series of strategic listening sessions and conversations with the athletic department and with the campus leadership, it was determined an indoor turf practice facility would really make a lot of sense, because we could utilize that for the entire athletic department with a new weight room, with new locker rooms. Some of our sports don't even have their own locker room right now. Right. And so we recognize several needs. And so the capital campaign has helped make that possible as well, and we're anticipating going to bids on that in late January and hopefully breaking ground this spring.
Wow. Yeah, we were talking about that just before the podcast, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of exciting projects, being done on campus. And if you would have told me, if you would have showed me, I guess, a picture of campus in 2021, and now in 2020, well, 5 technically by the end of this podcast when it's uploaded. Certainly, so much has been done, and I know every day everyone hears the banging and clanging at McCarthy, getting that ready for, like you said, late summer. And I looked obviously the AI or digital renderings of it look phenomenal. It's just going to be a phenomenal addition to the campus. And I think I had 1 or 2 classes in McCarthy, but ever since they're doing construction, no more. So. Let me think. Let's see. You brought it up very briefly. You have something going on after Christmas, but this week we'll say, or in the next few weeks, you got some appropriations to go to. You talked about it before the podcast as something you thought would be interesting to bring up. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, every biennium, the state agencies and the university system and the individual college campuses are all part of the state agencies here in North Dakota, present our budget requests to the legislature. This year we start with the Senate appropriations, and that'll be in mid-January, sometime between the 15th and 17th. And we go in and we share some of the highlights, some of the successes. We share enrollment trends. And we have a lot of great things to talk about, obviously, at VCSU in regard to enrollment and growth, both in terms of headcount, students, but also in FTE, which is the full-time equivalents, the credit hours that our students are taking. Both of those numbers have been growing significantly in the last 3 semesters. And so we have a strong story. We lead the state in providing teachers to our teacher workforce. In fact, we have over 1,500 teachers in over 150 different communities just in North Dakota. But our reach is far more expansive than that. We have faculty, we have teachers throughout the country and throughout Canada as well. Mm-hmm. So we've got a good story to tell, but I will appear in front of them and share with them our budget request for the next biennium, which involves operations, salary dollars, any special appropriations, and this year we are going to be asking for some funding to help with deferred maintenance for McFarland Hall. Over the last 5 years, we've put about $1.8 million into that building with some tuck pointing, and that's doing some of the work on the brick structure to make sure the foundation is solid. Mm-hmm. We've renovated a few classrooms to update them, but we need to do some more. And there are some big ticket items that our annual tier funding just doesn't address. So it's about a $27 million request. But it's the kind of request that, if funded, will ensure the longevity of that building for the next 50 to 75 yeyears.
Wow. Yeah. That's awesome. That's that I did not know about that one before the podcast. We didn't talk about that. I think that's unbelievable. McFarland, obviously, kind of a staple in anyone's day. I don't know anyone who hasn't been to a class at McFarland Hall, and it was
the first building on campus.
Okay, interesting.
I have a question for you. Do you know how many windows there are in McFarland Hall?
Is there? You have the answer on the?
I do.
Okay. Well, so let's think. McFarland, there is 4 floors. The 4th floor is not too big, so I'm gonna say. I guess it's really a matter of the number, I think, times 3, and then add about half. So I'm gonna say. So I will say there's. God, I am going to be so off. I'm going to say 30 windows. I'm going to say 115 windows.
You're about halfway there.
There's more?
257 windows in McFarland Hall.
Did you just go around counting all of them?
Yeah, I didn't personally, but
257?
Yeah.
What would your guess have been, Mark?
Building. I knew the answer.
Oh, so is this just something I missed the boat on, or am I out to lunch?
Actually, your method of getting this was really well done. It's a much bigger building.
Yes, it's
than
very
folks
long.
realize.
Yes,
right.
When you walk across, I spend a lot of time in Vangstad.
Yep.
When I will go to walk across all the way, I'm like, I gotta be Oh, I'm halfway. Like, yeah. So, okay, I guess it makes sense. I might have to go double check and go count them up after this podcast. But that's a good question.
Our request, Jaden, is going to address that. All new windows.
Wow.
New roof.
257 of them.
New roof. New heating and air conditioning. And a new fire escape in the back as well. So there's a life safety issue with this as well.
Interesting.
So.
Okay. Yeah, well, obviously, I'm a big proponent on that, fire safety.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the community, because at the beginning you said we have such a good community here. Obviously, you've lived here since your inauguration. You didn't have, you hadn't lived here before. Talk about kind of just your years here and just what it's meant to you to live in Valley City.
It's been fantastic. A great move for us, and the community, as you say, is so supportive of the campus. There's a connection between this campus and this community that's very special, whether it's from City Hall or the relationship we have with the Valley City Public Schools. I try to meet monthly with the mayor, Mayor Dave, and with Josh Johnson, the superintendent of schools, and we talk about issues that all three of us are dealing with, and not necessarily issues, but are there things that we can help each other with? And can we help brainstorm some things together? And, I talked about Vikes on Central a little bit ago. What an unbelievable display of community support that is. When the students walk across the walk bridge and we get to the business district, and I don't know if maybe the most popular thing is either the dunk tank or the ramen noodles that get handed out at the parade.
That's two. Those are two good ones.
It's just an impressive celebration, and the businesses stay open, and it allows our students to get to know the community. And I know the community appreciates it, and I know our students appreciate it. And so there's just a really good, as they say, town-gown relationship. And in a community the size of Valley City, that's important. Valley City is important to Valley City State and vice versa.
Yeah, no, as a student here, athletics or anything, even the concerts that I've been to, just so many community members just out and about, and just they want to see what the university has to offer. They want to see what the students are doing. So it's super cool to see that. I'd love for you to expand a little bit on it. What is one unique thing about this town that you don't think any other town has?
The Cheyenne River.
Yes.
Although several towns have the Cheyenne River. That's more of a geographical uniqueness. One thing about this town, there's so many. I would say the Highline Bridge.
It is that is.
They call
unique.
this the city of bridges, but when we first moved here, I actually lived very close to the bridge, and you wouldn't hear the trains, but you would feel them.
Yeah.
And you get used to it. That's what they would say. You get used to it, and you do. You really do. It becomes a part of your daily routine. But it's such a beautiful, picturesque landscape. When you're down there at the country club, teeing off on number 1, and you've got a train going across the High Line and then another one coming down the hill, it's really just a remarkable sight.
Yes, I completely agree with that one, and I would say hole 1 is a phenomenal view, but I'm thinking about that par 3
on the backside.
Yes, and that is
to the west.
Yep, and it's the same, and you're even closer, and you even got a little bit of the river. I think that's my picturesque hole. That's the one you take the picture of.
Yep.
And obviously playing at Charlie Brown.
Yep.
During games, practice 2 or 3 trains will go by. Right.
Yeah.
I've never seen such heavy train traffic.
Yeah.
But it's always going over that bridge, and it's like you said, such a cool bridge, and kind of the signature, I guess, view of the city. You could say.
It is. Yep. Really is.
I want to get into some fun questions.
Okay.
Because I do this for everyone. I changed them up a bit. I was going with kind of the same ones because I liked them. But I'm like, let's change it up here because we got the president on, and we want to make things interesting. So
you mean I prepared all the wrong answers then?
Yeah. yeah. The podcast script was leaked. No. So this one I do like because everyone has a completely different answer, a completely different way to approach it. But who would you go to dinner with, one person, dead or alive?
I think if I had the chance to have dinner with my dad again, I would do that.
Yeah.
He was such a wise influence for me, and just such a gentleman and so calm with the way he would approach stressful situations. It'd probably be my dad.
That's a phenomenal answer. I love that answer. You know, I'm kind of the same way. I almost picked my dad just right now because, you know, having dinner with, you know, someone like that, a figure in your life like that is super, super rewarding.
Yep.
And yeah, I absolutely love that answer. This one, I'm actually curious if you have a couple that you'd like to share, but an underrated skill that you have that has contributed to your success.
I don't know if it's a skill, and I don't know if it's underrated, but I'm going to say two things. One is the ability to multitask, and the other is just work ethic. You know, I alluded earlier about all the time in a practice room and all the focused effort that I put in on the clarinet when I was in grad school. And you think, well, how does that relate to being successful? It's about your work ethic. And I learned really early on that excellence is not based on geography. You know,
I like that one. I never heard that one.
And you can be excellent wherever you are, and so make wherever you are excellent. And so I think maybe just the work ethic piece and the ability to multitask.
I like that. I like that. Obviously, again, one of those answers where I expect such a broad, you know, spectrum of answers because it depends on the person, absolutely, and kind of how you view everything. But yeah, those two, again, I really love, and obviously something that isn't necessarily underrated,
Right.
but it is certainly an important skill. And then my final fun one would be your favorite place in the world that you've been to. Again, there can be multiple, there can be one specific. It's your question to answer.
Well, I had a chance to attend a conference in Belgium, and took a trip down to Paris, and actually toured Notre Dame Cathedral before the fire.
Okay.
And I would love to go back now and see it fully restored. But in terms of a family place that I've been, we did a family vacation to Hawaii a number of years ago. And I would say that was my favorite place.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with obviously the family behind you and stuff, and absolutely something that you'll remember forever.
Yep.
That's quite cool. Belgium. Can you dive into that a little bit? I've never heard of anyone who's been to Belgium.
Yeah,
Belgium.
the convention was at a place called Ostend, which is on the coast, and went through Brussels, you know, and so it was. I had never flown overseas. It was my first time in Europe, and it was really an interesting experience.
Yeah,
and the waffles really are.
They're that good.
Truly
hey?
exceptional.
Wow. Belgian waffles, yeah. How's that? First time flying, obviously, you said overseas. Is that like the hardest flight you've probably ever done just from sitting down?
The hardest flight, I actually flew to China one time, flew to Beijing, and that was the longest flight I've ever been on, probably the most difficult. Wow. The European flight wasn't quite so bad, about 6 or 7 hours.
Is it
as
only?
I recall.
Oh, wow,
Yeah,
okay.
Wasn't too bad.
My geography's not great. I thought it was a little longer than that. That's quite. I've never been more than playing for 5 hours. So
Right.
I feel like
That's long enough.
across the world is significant. I know even Hawaii's like pretty up there as far as 6-7 hours because obviously you're going to an island, beautiful island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah,
right?
that's correct.
Oh, if I would have got that one wrong, that would have been not good. Kind of just finishing up here. Give me your prospective pitch to a VCSU student, let me rephrase that. Give me your pitch to a prospective VCSU student. There, that makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
Just what would you say to a student, on a visit, or, I don't know if you meet a lot of prospective students. You probably do as the president.
I do.
But what do you kind of say to them?
Part of meeting them is my office is right next door to the enrollment services, so I can hear when they're starting a tour. I can hear them coming down the hall, and I always
Sounds strategic.
If I'm not in a meeting, I try to step out and greet the student and their family members. But we also have Viking visit days and large group things that bring students to campus, and there's so many positive things. To digest it down to just a 30-second pitch, I think what you have at Valley City State University is the perfect combination of all things that students are looking for. You've got a wonderful private atmosphere institution at a public university price. And the attention that the students receive here is really going to help them be successful, not only while they're here, but as they move on into their chosen careers. Our rankings were just so well thought of and recognized by external groups, whether it be from the Higher Learning Commission or from U.S. News or from Money.com, Study.com. All of these different groups have said so many wonderful things about our programs. So, private atmosphere, public school price, quality, a quality experience both in and out of the classroom. And when a student graduates from VCSU, they're going to graduate with much more than a degree. They're going to graduate with a support network. They're going to graduate with friends for a lifetime and colleagues for a lifetime. And they're going to graduate being poised to be very successful in life.
Mm-hmm. And I think the proof in that is the numbers you see for alumni weekends,
Right.
for homecomings. You get to see your old friends. Obviously, that was a new one for me this year. Some of the teammates that I play with graduate, come back, and we had a great group. And yeah, absolutely, I love the way you put that. And obviously, you're probably well versed in that speech because of how much you've delivered it to the students. But it's absolutely the truth.
And it's those are some standard boilerplate kind of things. But as you're talking to students, you also want to keep things very current, very relevant. And as things change on campus, as the campus continues to transform and improve, we need to make sure that they know they're going to be a part of continued transformation and continued growth.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, like I, said earlier, it's just the campus I saw in 2021 coming up here is so different from the campus now. And, for somebody who's coming in 2025, what it's going to look like in 2029, they'd plan to graduate. Yeah, I think that makes sense. It's just going to be, again, and then you think to the 21 to 2029, 8 year, the difference is it's almost exponential growth when you think about it. So
it is.
Yeah. It's really cool. Dr. LaFave, thank you for being here, especially on finals week. I know you're always busy.
Yeah.
Again, I'll wish you a happy new year. I appreciate you being on the podcast. Any final thoughts before we let you go?
Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for everything you do for this podcast and for the institution. This is really an outstanding avenue to get lots of different perspectives out there, and I appreciate all of the work you're doing in this office. It's good to have you, and I'm sure Mark Potts appreciates you as well. Final thoughts, just how grateful I am to be a part of this community, this campus, the colleagues that I have, the folks that are so focused on making VCSU a better place. Upholding excellence, becoming more excellent where we can, which in my opinion is in every area, and just moving together in a very positive way, moving forward and keeping VCSU to be a really important part of the North Dakota University system and the community of Valley City and the state of North Dakota.
Wonderful. You couldn't have said it any better. Dr. LaFave, thank you again. And Happy New Year, everybody. Hope everyone's Christmas was excellent. And second semester, I guess, starts now.
Thanks, Jaden.
Thank you for watching.